Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. Today we're going to be talking about my favourite books, which is something a little bit different but really weirdly highly requested. Like, I've never done anything like this before, I don't think, but for some reason so many of you have asked to see a favourite books video. Like, literally so many. So I'm gonna do it. I love to read. When I was younger I used to read so much. I was such a bookworm. And now I don't read as much as I would like to. I don't know why, I just like, if there's TV I can watch, or if there's like something I need to do on the internet, I would rather do that than sit down and read a book. But when I do get into a book, I really enjoy it. It's part of the reason I love going on holiday so much, because it just gives me a chance to sit down with a really good book. And I'm trying to get better, I am. But today we're going to be talking you through 10 of my favourite books of all time, and I've really battled with myself trying to like narrow this down to 10. And to be honest, these are probably different from what they'll be in 6 months' time or this time last year. It's ever changing, because whenever I read new books I just tend to really fall in love. So yeah, stop rambling, let's just get into it. I wasn't going to include my first book because I feel like it's kind of like self-explanatory and obvious, but I couldn't not mention them, and that is Harry Potter. Now, I'm about to show you all of my Harry Potter books. They are all first editions, every single one of them. I got Deathly Hallows the day it was released, the minute it was released to be exact. I love it. But all of my books are a little bit worse for wear, and I know that sometimes that makes people like die inside. Like, some book lovers are like, no, they need to be kept in pristine condition. But in my eyes, the like worse a book looks, the more it's been loved. So let me just show you these. Oh no! These are my Harry Potter books, and they are just so worse for wear, but they are so well loved. I couldn't even tell you the amount of times I've read all these books. If I was forced to choose a favourite Harry Potter book, I think it would have to be Goblet of Fire. I feel like the first 3 books were quite tame. They were very much like catered towards children, young adults. But this is the first book I think where it really sort of steps up a notch. You may disagree with me, but in my opinion this is like the first grown-up Harry Potter books when they really start to like become adults and children. Very much worse for wear, but that smell of like first edition Harry Potter books, it's just so distinctive to me, and it like takes me right back to my childhood. I have read this more times than I could possibly tell you. And Harry Potter just means so much to me. I could go on about it for hours. Now, the rest of my books are in no particular order. Like, Harry Potter is definitely like number 1, but the rest of them, I'm just going to pick them up and talk about them. So the very first book I'm going to pick up here is a book called The Fever and the Flame by Mary Hooper. Now this is actually the omnibus edition, so this is 2 books in one here. The first one is called At the Sign of the Sugar Plum, and the second one is called Petals in the Ashes. And this is the first book that really gripped me when it comes to history. I am a massive history nerd. I really, really love learning and reading about history. It's just something I love to do, and at one point I want to get a degree in history. Like, that is like my goal in life. And this is probably the first book, and probably the only historical fiction book I've read that has really gripped me, because I do love learning about history, but if I'm going to learn about it I just want to like maybe go on the internet and just find like proper essays and articles and stuff about a time period. I find it really hard to get into historical fiction, but this is so well done. It is definitely more of a young adult book, and like as I read it now, I read it about 6 months ago again, you can definitely tell it's written for sort of younger people. I think I first read this when I was about 12 years old. It really is gripping. It's the story of Hannah, who travels up to central London to live with her sister. I think Hannah's about 14, 15 if I remember correctly. But when she's in London, that's when the plague hits, and so the first book, At the Sign of the Sugar Plum, is about Hannah and her sister living in London during the plague and everything that sort of comes along with that. And the second book, Petals in the Ashes, is about 1666, the Great Fire of London, and how they're also in London for that. And it's just like, it does historical fiction in a easy to digest way, and I just really love this book. Next up is Paper Towns, and if you know me well you would probably be expecting this to be in here. Paper Towns isn't the best John Green book. Like, I've read other books which are definitely like better written, better characters, but in terms of the John Green book which I relate to the most and I will go back and read time and time again, it's Paper Towns. It's about Quentin, who of course is a high school student. He's that typical John Green character, and he's like a little bit of a wallflower and doesn't quite fit in, but he is obsessed with this girl named Margot, and it's basically a story and maybe a cautionary tale in a way about how you shouldn't idolise people. You never really know somebody. Like, how well do you ever really know anybody? Your parents, your siblings, your best friend. How well do you ever know them, and how dangerous it is to become like so infatuated and obsessed. And it's just like, I just really relate to it because I'm very much somebody who looks up to other people. I definitely idolise people. And when I first read this, it kind of made me think like, I do that, that's me. And there is like that element of mystery in there as well. It's like Margot goes missing, which isn't a spoiler, like that is like basically the premise of the entire book. And Quentin just goes to look for her, and like she leaves a trail of clues for him to follow, or so he thinks. And it's just, it's really good. I really enjoy it. I'll pick it up time and time again, and yeah, and I really like the movie as well because I love Cara Delevingne. Okay, so if you were to ask me what my favourite book is other than Harry Potter, I think I would have to answer this. And you've probably heard me talk about this on my channel so many times, but I think about this book every single day of my life, and it makes me like tear up just thinking about it. This is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. And it's a really difficult book to explain the premise. It's an LGBT sort of coming of age book, I'd say. And it's about Aristotle and Dante, who are friends, but they're more than friends, but they're not, and then they are. And it's just about them like growing up together, and it's like set across like a really long amount of time. It's like set over 2 years. So they really do like grow together. And it's just the most beautifully written book I've ever read in my entire life. I read this in about a day. I was sat on a beach in Dubai and I just got into it, and I did not move all day. I was obsessed with it. It's like, it's kind of written like poetry. It reads so easily and so well. And something I really like about it is it isn't overly descriptive. I have a real issue with books that are like so descriptive that it just like gets like, okay, just get on with the story. Like, I like to fill in the blanks in my own mind because I feel like that makes it more relatable to me. And this isn't overly descriptive, it sort of just is what it is, and I love that. It's written by Benjamin Elire Sainz. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know, it's Spanish, I assume. He just manages to pinpoint thoughts and emotions of a character in a way that I've never read in another book. Like, this really like gets to your core and hits you like right in the feels, to use that expression. It just like, there's just something about this book which is so painfully relatable. I could cry talking about this. I could genuinely cry. And also the ending of this book is my favourite ending I've ever read in any book of all time. Like, it just is the perfect ending. And I've heard rumours that there's going to be a sequel to this book, and I will die. I want there to be a sequel so, like, oh my god. Literally, I've got tears in my eyes just thinking about it. Okay, so I was talking about how I don't like descriptive books, and this is kind of like a bit hypocritical of me because this is probably the most descriptive book I've ever read, but it works. This is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. And this I read in Florida, which is why it's all like watermarked, and it's loved, is what it is. When I first started this book, I really struggled to get into it. It's a very slow build, but then once you're in it, you never want it to end. It's so strange how like I didn't even realise it had hooked me until I was like, I don't want this book to end ever. I will happily read this for the rest of my life. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about this book because it was made into a movie and it was released earlier this year, and the movie's just as beautiful as the book. But it's the story of Elio and Oliver. Elio is a 17-year-old boy who lives in the Italian Riviera, and it's kind of like a coming of age journey for him. He's sort of realising a lot about himself, and then Oliver comes to stay with him and his family. Things happen and they sort of end up in this passionate, like, I don't want to say love because nothing about this screams love to me, but it's just passion and obsession, and like, it's just 6 weeks. And then that's it, and that's like their relationship. I think because it's from Elio's point of view and that's sort of how he's raised, the really sort of overly descriptive thing works for this, and especially because it is Italy and there's so much to see and like for them to describe. I think it just works, and it's not something I do usually like, but I do like it in this. The ending in this is actually different from the movie. If you've seen the movie, I would definitely recommend it. I would recommend reading the book first, then watching the movie, because the movie obviously missed out a lot of stuff in the book. And to be honest, I actually think I prefer the ending in the movie. I prefer how they did the ending in the movie. because I feel like it's more satisfying for a viewer than the ending in the book. But also the ending in the book, it is right. It's like what you would expect, but it's not what you want. Okay, so the next book I had to show you I don't actually have because I lent it to a friend and I'm really annoyed that I don't have it to show you. But it's Carol. Now, Carol was originally released in 1952 under the name The Price of Salt, and it was marketed as the novel of love that society forbids. And it was basically the story of a lesbian relationship, which even now is really hard to find good fiction about. So it's the story of Carol and Therese, and Carol's like that bit older, Therese is quite young and naive, but they're sort of like captivated by each other. And Carol is older, she's married, she's got a child, and it's about the consequences of their love. Consequences that you wouldn't really find in society today. Like, in terms of today, you probably read the book and think it's very tame. It's not like a wild, passionate romance, but when you read it, you've got to bear in mind this was the 1950s, and this book in its time was like crazy outrageous. It really was. There's one line in the book which has always stuck with me, and it's the line, "How is it possible to be afraid and in love?" And that has always stuck with me, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful novel. It's really like, it just really hits you in the heart. You like really begin to root for these characters and you feel for them and you want them to succeed in their love in a society that doesn't want them to be together. And one of the things which is really, really crazy about the book is the fact that it has a happy ending, which I don't think is a spoiler. You kind of expect romance novels to have happy endings. But at the time, these sort of like LGBT books always had a unhappy ending, usually where they went back to a man or like back to whatever gender they're supposed to be with. And it's always sort of like viewed as a cautionary tale. This is why you shouldn't be gay, because this is what will happen to you. But Carol has a happy ending, and it was so shocking for its time. And it's just like, I don't know, you probably read it today and you like think it's not that interesting, it's not that crazy, but when you know the history behind it, it really is. Plus the last chapter in this book is just the most beautiful chapter. It is so beautiful. I think about it all the time. The next book I want to tell you about I also don't have in person, which is really annoying. I think I accidentally threw it away when I moved house and I hate myself for it. Is Uglies by Scott, I think his name's Scott Westerfield. This is the first dystopian sort of trilogy book I ever read. After this came out like Divergent, Hunger Games, like Maze Runner, all of that. But this was the first one that I read, and it's the first one that I really fell in love with. I love a good young adult dystopian fiction trilogy. It's just my, I want to say guilty pleasure, it's not guilty, I just love it. But Uglies is a story about a girl called, oh my god, what's her name? Tally, her name's Tally. Tally is living in a world, a sort of like a post-apocalyptic world, where society has been so conditioned into sort of beauty that when you're born you're considered an ugly, and when you turn 16 you have a surgery, like an all-over plastic surgery, which turns you into a pretty. And this is all Tally's ever wanted. Tally has always wanted to be a pretty. She's always imagined how she's gonna look. And then just before her 16th birthday, she meets somebody called Shay, and Shay like changes her entire perception of the world. And in all honesty, like, the book isn't amazingly written. It's not like the best actual like prose I've ever read, but the storyline speaks for itself. It's all about like conformity and sort of like how the government can control you and how like you're just conditioned to believe this one thing that the world wants you to believe. I feel like me, Queen of the Mysteries, can't do a favourite books video without talking about at least one crime fiction novel. This actually isn't the book I want to speak about, but it's in the same trilogy. It's not a trilogy, it's like same series is the word I'm looking for. This is the 6th one in the series, I want to say. It's by MJ Arledge. It's called Hide and Seek. But the one I want to talk about is called Eeny Meeny. That's the first one in the series. And it's a sort of detective crime series about D.I. Helen Grace. And the thing about this, I read a lot of crime fiction. I really, really enjoy a good crime novel. But I find they get very samey after a while. You sort of read them and you begin to guess what's going to happen because it's all been done before. But the reason I really like this D.I. Helen Grace series is because each book sort of always manages to shock me in some way. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best written one I've ever read. I've definitely read books that keep you more gripped. But in terms of like constantly being surprised, you can never guess the ending. You never know what the next book's going to be about. It's really, really good, and it's very dark and very creepy, possibly to a concerning level. It's like very, very dark, but I like that in a novel because that's just what I like. Okay, 2 books left. This one is one that I rented from my school library when I was about 13 years old, and I went out and bought it, and then when I lost that book that I bought another one because I loved it so much. Again, it's probably a little bit young for me, and like looking at it now, like the text is so big, like it's obvious it's written for sort of like younger readers because it's like very easy to read, but it's just very nostalgic and I love it a lot. It's called A Swift Pure Cry by Siobhan Dowd. This is set in Ireland. It's about a young Irish Catholic girl called Shell, and basically her mum dies, her dad is a raging alcoholic who's also very, very like religious to a worrying point. It's just about how she's got to look after her dad and look after her younger siblings, but also look after herself. And because it's deep in like a small town in like Catholic Ireland, she becomes the centre of a town-wide scandal. And I just think it's very apt for today as well, because with the whole like Irish abortion referendum as well, it has a lot of links to this book, which when I first read it when I was 13, I got it, but I don't think it was until I reread it like a few years later that I really understood the core of this book and how dark it is. It has got a very heavy subject matter, which I didn't really pick up on when I was first reading it when I was so young. I got the premise of the book, but I didn't really get to the core of it until so many years later. The very last book is my love, Simon. It's actually called Simon vs. the Homo Sapien Agenda, but it was released in the cinemas as Love, Simon, and that's the version of the book I have. This is a really quick and easy read. Really quick and easy. I think I read it in about a day and a half, and it's basically about Simon who knows he's gay and he's sort of like in the coming out process, but he's still like finding himself and feeling comfortable with himself. But he starts this correspondence with somebody else from school who's also in the same position as him. They don't know who the other is, and like they begin to like get feelings for each other, but they still don't know who the other is. There's just like this element of kind of like mystery throughout the book, like who is Blue, who like, because obviously they signed the emails with like false names and the other one was called Blue. So you'd be like, who is he? And then I kind of guessed halfway through the book. But it's just a really easy, lovable, relatable, easy, cute read. Like, it's just, I read this with a smile on my face the entire time. And when I wasn't smiling, I was booing like a baby. You like feel all the emotions in this. I think part of the reason this is so easy to read, because a lot of it is like emails between Simon and Blue. Doubt you're going to be able to see this because I've got the exposure up so high, but like it's like just email, so it's like a really quick, easy read. You kind of get to see Blue and Simon get to know each other, and it's just like, if you've ever been in that position with somebody where you really like them, you just like getting to know each other and it's really exciting, that really like jumps off the pages in this. If you're looking for like maybe your first ever LGBT book to sort of like ease yourself into the world of LGBT fiction, then this would be one I'd totally recommend. And also see the movie, but read the book first. And there you go, they are all of my favourite books. Maybe I'll film this again in a year's time. Or if you want to see a book like just dedicated to my favourite crime books or my favourite LGBT fiction books, or like historical books, which aren't many of, so I probably won't do that one, let me know, because I've really enjoyed filming this. I just don't know if other people would enjoy hearing me talk about books and boring things, but of course, let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.